So here at Half Car, we've been covering most major holidays for some reason. And Valentine's Day has become kind of a big deal. Commercial profiteering. In fact, about $1 billion worth of chocolate will be purchased. And people, don't buy that milk chocolate BS. Get some real cocoa, would you? We have too many rainforests anyway. In addition to that, about 1 billion sappy love cards will be exchanged.
Some roses are red, but others are varied. I got you pregnant. I guess let's get married.
Roughly 189 million stems of roses will be handed out, and some 220,000 ill-conceived, cliched marriage proposals will be gambled upon. So what is the origin of this yearly Genocidia Florum? The quickest, most popular explanation of why we celebrate February the 14th is that it's a throwback to a Christian day of feasting that honored a saint, or possibly two saints who shared the same name, which in Latin would be Valentinus. The saint that everybody associates Valentine's Day with was imprisoned under the Roman Emperor Claudius II at the end of the 3rd century AD, which, if you watched our Christmas video, you would know was around the time St. Nicholas was born. For some reason, Claudius didn't want soldiers getting married during wartime, and Bishop Valentine was performing wedding ceremonies anyway. He was a traitor and a criminal who received a proper martyrdom for his infractions. When normal people are put to death, they're just dead. But if you're a member of the clergy, you can be martyred and later canonized. I thought it meant they shoot you out of a giant cannon, but it really just means they make you into a saint, and for thousands of years, people who've never met you talk about how cool you were. I'd still rather be shot out of a giant cannon, but that is also kind of sweet. So, because nearly 2,000 years ago, this guy defied a tyrant and was murdered, I'm going to give someone a doll that looks like a bear. That makes a lot of sense, right? As for flowers, some say roses were the favored flower of Venus, the Roman goddess of love. She, by the way, cheated on her husband with the god of war, so her bae, Vulcan, who was the god of, blacksmiths, fashioned a magical net and captured the illicit lovers to parade them around before the shame of all. Isn't that romantic? But before you judge her, keep in mind that those wacky gods were doing all kinds of weird stuff back then. In fact, the Roman gods are actually copies of the Greek gods, so Venus would have been Aphrodite, and the war god Mars would have been called Ares. The head Roman god Saturn, his Greek counterpart was Zeus, and Zeus, who was married to his sister, liked to go down to Earth and fornicate with all kinds of creatures, sometimes I want to say in the form of an animal. When Saturn castrated his father and the blood fell into the sea began to foam, and from the nut blood foam, Venus was born. So she had a pretty weird life from the start. So let's cut her some slack, shall we? Just to get a little more off topic, you might notice most of our planets are named after the Roman versions of these gods. And Venus had a kid with Mars, actually she had 2 kids with Mars, who were named Timor and Metis, which in Greek were called Phobos and Deimos. They are the incarnations of fear, or fear and terror, or whatever, same thing. And appropriately, they lend their names to Mars's 2 puny little moons. It would seem that Mars the planet was named a long time ago by the Romans, and then when Asaph Hall was able to detect the 2 satellites in 1877, he named them after the children of Mars the god, but for some reason used the Greek version of the names, and I don't know why. In addition to the twins, helping us bring things back in the direction we were supposed to be headed, Venus and Mars, or possibly Venus and Vulcan, had another kid named Cupid, who, as you may know, runs around shooting people with arrows, forcing them to fall in love with each other. Word to the wise, it only works for him. Are you in love yet? Cupid himself had a bizarre love affair with a mortal named Psyche. If you guys are at all interested in this stuff, I recommend looking it up because that's a pretty screwy story. Did you guys catch her name? Between the Roman and the Greek mythologies, we actually pull a lot of almost everyday words. Hermaphroditus, like hermaphrodite, was this super androgynous dude. Priapus had a monster dong. Narcissus, you may have heard of. In fact, there's an incarnation of Venus. A bunch of this ancient stuff is confused with varied and conflicting explanations, so we've ended up with several different versions of a lot of these well-known figures. That was called Venus obsequens, or something. Pronouncing Latin's hard. which seems to be derived from the Latin obsequi, which is the origin, I think, of obsequious. You get all that? I heard the city of Verona, that's in Italy, where the illiterate bard's famous Romeo and Juliet were from, receives about 1,000 letters addressed to Juliet on Valentine's Day. That's not as many as Santa, but it's still impressive for a person who never existed and then died. I'd love to read a few of those. What would you say to a girl who was so in love that she killed herself without whatsoever trying to resuscitate her beloved or even perform so much as a rudimentary medical examination on the guy? Incidentally, we were in Loveland, Colorado a bit ago visiting family, and they have thousands of Valentine letters sent through them so that the envelope can get a special stamp that says Loveland on it. Am I the only one who thinks all this shit is really silly and weird? Speaking of silliness, they say 15% of women in the United States will send flowers to themselves on Valentine's Day.
For me?
According to someone's guess, after analyzing retail statistics, about 3% of people will give a Valentine's Day gift to their pet.
What? I just wanted a little pussy.
If you're single on Dead Guy Who Really Wanted Soldiers to be able to get married during Wartime Day, you can instead celebrate Singles Awareness Day, or SAD. So, maybe you don't have anyone special in your life right now, but that's no reason to be so. Besides the fact that you don't have to clean up your place, fake interest in someone else's stupid hobbies, have a 20-minute circular conversation about what to have for dinner, and you get a whole bed to yourself, you can always do like me and find a temp. Someone to fill that black, empty, soul-crushing abyss in your heart, just for today. Hey, tree, will you be my Valentine? Trash can, will you be my Valentine? Llama in a sombrero, will you be my Valentine? Hey, the ghost of the martyred Saint Valentinius, will you be my Valentine?
Rume, imnon inclantur al proscindame virus.
I don't know what he said. You good? Corolla, will you be my Valentine?
$50.
It's a date.
You know, I've been caught up in the gritty details of this job so much that I've forgotten what it's like to really connect with someone. I don't want to do nothing physical, but could I give you a kiss? Just a peck?
Yeah, okay. Ah, son of a bitch!
Thanks for watching, hon.